Oh yeah, most definitely respected for sure. Um, Now when you got signed, what was that process like? Did you have to like migrate to New York, or was you able to get signed from where you was at?
I got signed through connections that I had at Howard University who happened to be from New York. Like, I went to school with Puff. I went to school with, Derek D. Angeletti, who produced the Benjamins, who produced, Hypnotized, who produced my record, The Theme is Party Time. Mark Pitts is the cat that I, signed to by Storm Universal at the time, but he still currently runs by Storm. As a matter of fact, he's the president of RCA to this day. But he also went to Howard as well. So the community where I met these people that happened to be from New York was really at Howard. But, because the labels and everything were in New York, I went to New York to, once I signed my deal, I actually inked my deal while I was still in DC, but then had to move to New York in order to begin the process of recording and all this other stuff. And essentially that's where the industry was. But I really owe it to Howard University because that was where everything got started, and that's where all the players met initially. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, man, that's amazing. That just lets you know what type of creative minds and people that come up out of Howard. Like you named some heavyweights, man, for
I mean,
sure.
and it's even more than that. It's like, Mark
Right.
is with the Howard, Anthony Anderson went to Howard, Taraji P. Henson went to Howard. I mean, you can go back to Debbie Allen, Felicia Ayers Rashad, you know what I'm saying? They all went to Howard, Felicia Allen Rashad and Donnie Hathaway. And, like it's just a rich history, that Howard University brings. So yeah,
Right. Big shout out to Howard, the HBCUs.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Now can you talk about your first album? What was that process like? The Many Faces album.
It was really, it was the debut, and it really, it expressed, the years that I've been, I wrote that album, um, kind of like expecting, this the material that I put on that album was really, most of it was written a couple of years before the album dropped because it was a part of the demo, but little did I know that what I was writing a few years prior to me getting signed would actually be the material that people would be introduced to. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why it happened like that is because the theme, was one of the later records that I did, took off so fast that the label, wanted to put something out to kind of take advantage of the hype or people, being, because it was such a hot record, is like you want to capitalize, which I think was not a good move. But they were trying to get some sales based off of the energy that the theme had brought. So we had to bring some of those records that I had written, as a part of the demo. And it worked though. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, little did I know that these records would be a part of the first project. And so the process, was a little different. Like we kind of had to catch up to what the theme was doing. Now, the sacrifice was that people still didn't know who Tracey Lee was. They knew what the record was. You know what I'm saying? When you hear his Party Time, you know what that is. But a lot of people still were not familiar with or did not get properly introduced to who Trey Lee is. And so, it's kind of like the gift and the curse. Like I'm still grateful for what the theme did. I'm still grateful for the doors that were allowed to open, or that the theme kind of bust open, that allowed me to come through and take advantage of. Even to this day, still getting calls for shows based off of that song. But it did not give a bunch of people the opportunity to understand who Trey Lee is. So you never really got a chance to take a dive into Many Faces, which is, the theme may be the surface record, but those other records give you a deeper dive into, Trey Lee, the MC, and the many stages, you know, for no pun intended, or the many faces of Tracey Lee, and what from a mental perspective, how I deal with certain things given certain situations. You know what I'm saying? Not every situation is handled the same. So that's what Many Faces was all about. But again, uh, people didn't get a chance to get into it. Now I'm seeing 25 years later, almost 25 years later, it'll be the 25th anniversary next year. I probably get more respect for that album now than I did back then, because it was kind of ahead of its time. But you know, I guess timing is everything, and everything happens for a reason and when it's supposed to happen. So, but that was essentially the process, is just trying to catch up to the success of the theme, and trying to put this album out in a timely fashion to take advantage of what was happening at the time. And I think we couldn't have did a better job at that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I appreciate that, King. Now,
Mhm.
now you connected with Busta on that album. What was that
Yes.
like? How did you meet Busta, and what was that studio session like, if you could
Uh,
recall it? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that was Mark Pitts, man. Mark, he connected the dots with Big, and he connected the dots with Buster. Buster was on the pseudo remix to the theme. It was called the After Party, and yeah, man, it was just simply a phone call. Uh, Let me pull a favor. Yo, boss, you want to get on this record? Yeah, 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 let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he got a bag for it. So, he wasn't going to turn, and, he wasn't going to turn down the bag at that time. You know what I'm saying? And again, him and Mark, had a good rapport. So, and I also like to think that both he and Big respected me as an MC. So it was like, yeah, let's jump on this record and let's make it happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that went down.
Oh yeah, big shout out to Bus, a legend for sure. He been on fire for so long,
Yeah,
man.
man. Yeah, you talking about almost 30 years, man. If not 30 years,
Yeah,
absolutely.
people don't even work a job for 30 years. That's
Exactly.
major.
Exactly.